All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Universities Academy podcast. I'm your host, John Jennings. With me, as always, behind the scenes, we have Mr. Ryan Kraft producing everything for us. And on screen, I have my co-host, Mr. Matt Childress. Matt, how we doing?
Doing good, man. How you guys doing? Doing all right?
Doing good. I assume you're excited to be back over on this side of the country after taking that plane out to Pasadena and doing the commentary with Andrew Holder of Go Beyond Gaming.
Yeah, man. It was quite the weekend. Whole lot of great gaming, whole lot of fun. First experience commentating, and definitely something that I would be willing to do again. It was really cool. It was a cool new way to experience the game.
Yeah. If you didn't know, if you're weren't aware, Matt obviously went out for the Pasadena RLE, did the commentary. On the topic of the RLE, we do have to update our fantasy league.
Things got spicy.
Things got spicy for Momo. Andrew took home the biggest amount of points from that event. So we had Ryan collecting 4 points, Andrew taking 18, Dave Wagner with the big goose egg on the points for the weekend, Chris with 5, and Tim with 8. So with
no
the
present
updated,
Mike 2?
No present Mike 2. Oh man.
Next time, Dave. Maybe next time, man.
Mm-hmm. After with the updated bonus points added, our current standings are Andrew now taking a lead with 39 points, Tim in second with 31, Dave still in third with 29, so not far behind, Chris at 17, and then Ryan at 12. So that is where we are with the current standings for the Fantasy League. We do have 2, maybe 3 events left. We have 2 officially scheduled. We'll consider maybe a third one. But we do have the upcoming provisional on September 24th, which will count, and then the October 1st provisional, the Rochester event.
Yeah. I know one thing that helped Andrew out a lot, because while we were commentating and they made it to Top Cuts, he was like, dude, I'm about to run this table this weekend. And it was that Sato. The Sato that he took in like the 6th or 7th round. He got those bonus points for Nick making Top Cuts with his Sato deck, So
yeah.
I know that was a big one. Those extra bonus points, that system you guys have going. And of course, Momo taking the event down. He had Momo as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he had Momo. Yeah, so he did really well there.
Yeah, worked out all right for him.
Yep. But speaking of, obviously, the event, Momo took it down. I believe it was a Momo mirror in the finals, right? Roberg versus Travis.
Yeah. Roberg and Tangeman. It was exactly what you would think it would be. Lots of blocking. They both game 1, Broberg built into deadlock and was like, whatever, man, come at me. And just drew a million cards and put together a really long attack string. Eventually got through Travis's wall. And then game 2, it was kind of like the opposite story. But Travis wouldn't build into deadlock, and he stayed at like a hard 10. But he had more deadlock threats on the board. So then Broberg couldn't build into it because he had like 3 quick creations in play or something. And and even then, though, like Broberg was slowly over the multiple turns, kind of like handcrafting and using that once per turn to kind of pull back the pieces he was going to eventually need to kind of be able to push through, and took it down in 2. It was a really good games. I know Momo's not everyone's favorite deck to watch. It's not necessarily the most exciting. It's not an aggro deck, but at the same time, it is really impressive to see people really refine these lists, because they had 2 very different attack lineups. Like there's some commonality in them, but for the most part, they had some really cool kind of, I guess, like variants and preferences that they had in attacks. So it was kind of cool to see how that played out in the matchup as well.
Yeah. Was there any attack that you saw, like either of them playing, that you're like kind of like, whoa, what was that? Because I know in the first game, Travis was really getting a lot of use out of just cycling Knife Slice. Because I think Broberg, he did go into deadlock, like you said, and then he was just kind of trying to cycle that Knife Slice to get the deadlock enhanced to make him lose too.
So Knife Slice was a cool addition. I think Travis actually brought it in. It was game 2.
Was it game 2?
Brought it in from the board.
Game 1 or game 2?
Broberg mained 1, and I'm pretty sure Travis's were in his board, and he brought it in. The coolest, I would say, like random tech piece was Copy Harden. And Travis ran like, I think 2, maybe 3 of that. I think it was 2 though, in the main. Just so we could get extra uses out of some of those face downs when we would flip them and then replay them or build them down and do other things like that. So that was a pretty cool piece of tech. It didn't end up coming up as very relevant in the matchup, but I think it did help him out throughout all the Swiss rounds and getting to where he was later on in the tournament. So that was a cool attack. past that, Rotberg's lineup was, I'd say, the more what you would expect, kind of from a Momo lineup. Except for he doesn't. He's apparently not a big fan of Create CaptureNet.
Okay.
So that's normally not in his list, if I remember correctly. And he runs other things instead of that. I know home run comment, of course, being one of the things that, like, hey, I'm going to play this home run comment at the end of this 6 attack string and do kind of what Jira does, except for I've got a million things up and let's just make it lethal. All right, you're dead. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how set 3 shakes it up. And how Momo's kind of the big baddie on the block right now, right? Like that's the deck everyone's trying to figure out. Hey, do I have a 50-50 matchup at least with Momo? If I don't, then why am I playing this deck? So it'll be interesting to see how set 3, when it drops here in a few weeks, really shakes things up, and if that deck can really stay on top or even near the top. So
yeah, there wasn't. I would say there weren't a whole lot of well, I guess maybe having because there was Sero 1 and a Sato both in top cuts because there's only a top 8 out in Pasadena. So I'd say that was kind of surprising. At least those
and
were
there's a
characters
Moneta too.
There was a Moneta too. Well, we saw Moneta too at the provisional just before made top 4.
But this one was off of death.
Yeah, it was lots of death instead of water, which is kind of shocking.
Yeah. Hayden's deck was pretty cool.
But I feel like maybe not like a whole lot of big surprises from Pasadena. Or what were you seeing as far as like decks that were doing well throughout the day that maybe were on like the outskirts of maybe getting the top cuts or maybe like right on the edge? Because I know there was Brandon Smith's Kurogiri deck that was really interesting.
That deck is probably the deck that if you're looking for like a spicy deck that no one was really prepared for, right? That would be the deck. And we featured it on stream. It was a 9 attack deck. He runs 4 gut punches. He runs 4 of, oh man, what was the other one? Hold on. Oh, capture or surprise, capture net or whatever the May attack that reduces something to 1 speed when you remove it from your
net gun surprise.
There you go.
And like 1 dropkick slicer, I think maybe.
The hot 1 dropkick slicer. And he got to live the dropkick slicer dream where he got his deck all the way down. He had put 3 gut punches on the bottom over the course of a few turns. Then he had the dropkick slicer in hand. He stacked the 5 on top using Kirigiri or whatever. He had put 2 other with dissolving the conflict onto the bottom. So he plays the dropkick slicer. He draws the 3 gut punches, and then he has 2 more 5s to hard check that he knows before he has to cycle. And that deck was really, it was a really cool deck as far as like the number of interactions and all. I personally hate mill as a strategy in this game that I played to simulate fighting, and just in general in card games. It's not my preferred strategy. But at the same time, I don't have a problem with there being alternate win conditions. Even further, he actually didn't win many games through mill. He normally just ended up killing people because apparently when you play flash attacks that do like 6 or 8 damage.
6 damage.
6 damage. You just kind of kill people sometimes. They run out of blocks eventually. So it was a cool deck. It's a really cool deck. And he had to play like some really impressive defense to make it work all day. And he did. He's a good player, and that's what he did. So that was a cool deck. It was right, I think, on the outskirts of it. I don't know where he finally placed. I want to say it was top 16.
Okay.
Might have been top 32, but he did really well throughout the day.
I will say, in the week before the Wednesday, so the Wednesday before the of the Pasadena RLE, I actually played Brandon in the Webcam Weekly, and he was playing Shoto 2 Water, and I was just kind of talking to him about it. I was like, oh, so it's like, what are you thinking about playing? You thinking about playing Momo? You thinking about playing this? And he was kind of like, oh, well, I don't know, just kind of seeing what there is, seeing what to play. And he, of course, he wasn't going to mention the Kurogiri deck, but I see you now, Brandon. I see you. You sneaky.
Yeah, well, we talked about that. He was like, yeah, like I built this deck back when I think when set 2 first came out, and he was like, this deck is not okay. This should not exist. And he played it a little bit locally, and his locals were like, you have to start playing this in events, man. And he was like, dude, I'm not going to do that because once this is out there, we can't take it back, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't like the deck. Like he's in my school of thought of like mill shouldn't be a thing in this game, but man, this is a really efficient deck. Because he and I talked some after his game that he went on stream and all, and it was very funny because it's just a mean deck, man. Like it's just it tells your rival no over and over again, and then you just make them run out of cards. And the reason we put cards in our deck is because we want to play those cards, and his deck just says you don't get to play those cards, man. Sorry.
Would you say it's evil?
It's pretty evil. Yeah, it was pretty evil.
There you go. For all you people wanting your evil decks, it's right there. It's Kurogiri, man.
Yeah, you just gotta learn to play defense like a champion.
Yeah. But did you see anything like as far as like what would like might change the meta as a whole, or anything that would like think leads you to believe there's going to be any kind of big shift before set 3 comes out, or you think it's just going to be kind of the status quo riding out, trying to figure out how to beat the Momo life deck, or just like the life deck in general?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be some new, gangbuster deck that we've not seen pop up at some point. We're pretty
Mhm.
well into the set 2 meta at this point. I don't think it's solved. Like, I still think there's iterations that you can see on decks.
Mhm.
Like the Kirishima 2 deck has continued to kind of evolve to include like main board apathetics more, maybe a little bit less, learning the standards now because Asui's gone. So like I think decks are going to continue to shift and evolve around the meta, and the meta being mostly Kirishima 2 and Momos, and then maybe your Eraserheads or some of these other characters that have pretty good matchups into those things. But
Mhm.
overall, I don't think there's going to be like some deck that's just going to suddenly come out here and Momo's going to be like, what do I do? How do I play against this? And start dominating events. But I could be totally wrong. Like the best way to counter Momo is by putting up pressure early and often.
Mhm.
And if you can do that and you can really starve her on resources, then eventually she'll get behind and you can get a little bit ahead, and you can get your damage in. And Tokiyami is still a deck, right? Like that deck still can throw out some big damage. Thing is that he has to go all in, and if he doesn't get there, then he's pretty much out of the game after that against Momo. So that's
Yeah.
more risky than Asui, who she could go all in and just play all these attacks, and Momo could run out blocks, and then she just plays 2 more attacks, and then she doesn't have any blocks, and then I just kill her. Like, so and Asui is still a very real deck, so we'll see. She just kind of lost some of that big oomph with the lashings and all. So
Yeah, I think she falls a little bit more into the Tokuyami like range of decks, right? Where it's like you can go all in, you just kind of have to pick your spot a little bit more,
mhm.
and maybe people are, I won't say just not willing to put in the work to like refine that deck, but it's just it's not as easy to just pick up and play, so
Sure.
they're not really trying to make that deck work.
Yeah, and again, I think the game overall is in a pretty good spot.
Mhm.
And it's only looking to get shaken up and kind of probably even better with set 3, because it looks like set 3 is going to add a lot of, or not a lot, but add some key support cards to some decks that are underrepresented and some strategies that maybe didn't quite have what they needed to really be competitive. So
Mhm.
that's really exciting. So I'm very excited for Nats when that comes along, because that'll be our first set 3 event.
Yeah. Yeah. So start getting on UVS Ultra now, because pretty much the whole set, except for quirk packs, as of this recording, is out at this point. I would say has been previewed. So go ahead and get on UVS Ultra. Start theory crafting those decks on your discords and start getting stuff ready. Now, as far as just your experience about just going out to Pasadena, like what was that like? What were some of the highlights?
I mean, like, it was super hot, which apparently they're like in some crazy heat wave right now, but like it's not super humid, so it's not the
Mm,
kind of hot that we're
must be
used to.
nice.
Yeah, I mean,
Couldn't be us.
it was still hot enough that walking around, you're probably breaking a sweat, right? But it's not
Yeah.
like you're covered in it, and
Hmm.
suffocating from it. There were a lot of good places to eat, and honestly, like the location, as bad as it sounds, is kind of trivial because it's all about the people, man. Like
Hmm.
like it's all about the community and just hanging out and spend some time with them and getting to play some games. So that was a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, like overall, I'd never been to California. It was a cool place to visit. I didn't get to do a lot of sightseeing because the event was 2 days and I had to fly back. I flew in like late Friday night, and then I had to
Yeah.
fly back late Sunday night to then come back and get ready. So I didn't get to do a lot of sightseeing, but from what I saw, Pasadena was nice. Got to see the downtown LA skyline as I drove through and came up from LAX. So that was pretty cool. Almost died in an Uber with Tam, Bromley, and Andrew. So that was
Oh,
cool.
nice.
We all had a come to Jesus moment, and we're better for it. Like we're all closer now. So
So
it was,
you're not worried about Final Destination like type scenarios anymore? Like you were no, no,
nah, I
not kind of
mean,
worried about.
like we were on our way back to the airport, and the driver was just he wanted to make sure we made it to our flight on time.
Okay, okay.
Never mind the fact that most of us had multiple hours before our flights were going to leave, but he wanted to make sure.
Very nice. Well, that is our little Pasadena recap for you guys. Coming up next, we have a very special interview with someone a little up in the ranks at Jasco here. Be sure to
We
stay
have an
tuned,
official
guys.
Jasco employee coming to our podcast.
Coming to our to the little old Universes Academy.
Oh man, this is going to be exciting.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good, guys. So stay tuned. We're coming right back with that interview. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Universes Academy podcast. As always, I'm your host, John Jennings, and we have Mr. Ryan Kraft producing everything behind us. On screen with me, I have co-host Mr. Matt Childress, and we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Luohan Wei. Luohan, how are we doing, man?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on the show. Longtime fan.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us. We're a big fan of your work as well.
Exactly. We're a big fan of obviously of the game and everything in the company. So yeah.
Fan of you guys as well. So love to be here.
Nice. So for those of people who listen to us and may not know, what is your connection to the My Hero Academia card game?
My connection, I'm a big fan of the card game. Let's start there. I'm a player, love to play, but I also am a representative of Jasco, the My Hero Academia CCG creators, and myself and my partner Paul, who I think you guys are going to have at some point in the show as well.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. Well, we'll see. He's busier than I am. So.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
And we essentially, we I guess speaking of passing the torch, right? We took the torch away, the baton, let's say, from Jason Ronsky, who shepherded the community, the Universes community for well over a decade, essentially. And we're really excited to be part of the My Hero era and the kind of this new era for Jasco games in the game. And it's been a blast. I learned a lot about being what it means to be a card game publisher and dealing with all sorts of different things. But I'm really grateful for the super community, the really, really awesome community that we've got, and you guys are staples in it, and I love watching your show whenever I have a chance.
Awesome. Well, thank you. It's very nice of you.
Thank you. Yeah, we love the game as well, and I think it's in really good hands, and I think that's a great opportunity to kind of give you an opportunity to get out here in front, because you and I have spoke before, and we've seen each other at events and things like that. But I know not everyone can travel, not everyone can compete. So can you kind of tell us about your card gaming experience and kind of like how you got to where you are right now?
Yeah, sure, of course. So, I grew up in Montreal, up in Canada. And I used to play, growing up, my first CCG experience was playing Yu-Gi-Oh. We had a friend group. There's one guy in our friend group who decided to create a YouTube channel. There's an explicit word in there, so I won't say it. You guys if you want. You guys have to cut it down, but it's still up there. I think the YouTube channel, from 10 years ago plus. But yeah, that was our group. We played at our locals, played that, and it was a type of thing where my parents actually, I had conservative, traditional Asian parents who didn't really want me to get to touch you. Like, what is that?
Right?
Study, right? And so I remember I would basically get my bike, say, hey, I'm going for a bike ride, and going to see my friends, and literally just bike. I live in the suburbs, so it was like a 45-minute bike ride to the local game store.
Oh wow!
Play card games, and then bike back and be like, before dark, and be like, oh yeah, I had a good time.
Right. I really worked up a mean sweat.
Exactly, and then by the time actually, when all the whole Jasco thing was happening, I was telling my parents about it, and my mom was like, hey, I have all these Yu-Gi-Oh cards from you, and I was like, you do?
You're like, you kept those?
You kept it? Yeah. So she brings back these like boxes of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. She opens them up. I'm like, where'd you get these? How'd you come? Oh, Luohan, we had them for safekeeping, and clearly safekeeping, right? And I think every time she would come to my room and clean up, she would just like literally take cards away from me. And I blame my friends. I was like, those good cards I had. Must have been my friend who took them, but anyways, I'm sorry for you.
It's actually your mom. She's just building decks on the side.
Exactly.
Like, you can't have these because I need them.
I was gonna say, what you don't know is really your mom was also going out and playing the games, and she was just like, "Oh man, Lujan's got this card. I need this card for my deck," and just taking it.
Exactly. So I played Yu-Gi-Oh back when the height of Edison format and all of that, and Teledad was a thing, Gladiator Beast. So that's when. And then then I actually transitioned over to like video games, hardcore video game stuff, and then played a lot of Hearthstone. And that was the game that like I would say I probably sunk in. I had when it first came out, I was playing like 16 hours a day. Just like grinding it out.
Oh wow!
And you can still see
what deck were you running? What deck were you running? Were you in Face Hunter?
Miracle Road.
Okay, Miracle Road.
Oh man,
you're working extra hard for all those wins. That's nice. Yeah.
Exactly. And it was to the point where and this is my crowning achievement in video games actually is the fact that even till this day, if you go up on the Blizzard website, when they first published the rankings for like beta season 2 or test season 1 or something like that, I'm actually in there. Like I ended up like top 25 for season 2 and 3.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. Back in the beginning when everybody was kind of bad and you could figure your way around. And so that was my experience there. And then later on, when you fast forward, starting to work and everything, I actually so I started my career over on the business side, the management consulting, and then because I had this passion for games, I knew I had to work in the industry, and so I started my career on the game side at Activision Blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
And so so I actually ended up working a little bit with the Hearthstone team on the kind of professional side now of things.
I'm so jealous. I legitimately so they did like an open audition. I'm sorry to interrupt. Like they did an open audition one time, like you create a card and send it in with your application and all. And I did that like 3 times. And I was like, nah, man, we're good. I even made visuals one time. I was so excited. I made an Archimond one time. It was cool. Anyway, sorry. I'm not gonna but I'm very jealous. That's an awesome career opportunity.
Yeah. It was. I did not work on the design side. To be clear, it was really on the business side. And
so you didn't tell me no, someone else.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
That can take you off the enemies list real quick.
Yeah, please.
It's a good one.
So did that, and then but I've always played a lot of, and so actually at Blizzard, because I was working with Hearthstone stuff, I actually just ended up playing a ton of just like digital CCGs. Like I played like South Park Phone Destroyer. I played like Duelist, which was like for a hot second, was out there, and then a whole bunch of just these like the Family Guy thing that was like on mobile. And anyway, so did that, and then tried Runeterra for a hot second, but that was not
Oh man, Runeterra's so good.
You guys like it?
I couldn't get into it, but John likes it a lot.
Yeah, I played a lot of Runeterra, mainly just because I guess to your point, it's like it's easy. You just pick it up on your phone, you can like crank out a bunch of matches or whatever, and
yeah, there you go. And you know what? Actually, when Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links came out, I was just like,
done. This is made for me. Yeah,
exactly.
Mom can't take these cards.
Yeah, exactly. And can't take these. Oh man. So, anyways, so when the opportunity arose for us to partner with Jasco, it was like, oh wow, I had not heard about Universal Fighting, so I had not heard about universes, but as we got into the game mechanics, I was like, wow, it's like such a deep game. And, it really, cause I'm a Spike, right? Like, let's face it, you don't grind 18 hours of Hearthstone like I did, like, not calling yourself a Spike. So, it's definitely a game that rewards, like the complexity of thought that goes into, the different levels of, do I block the lines of play, how I can, outsmart my opponent, like lead them to play a certain way. And I thought that was, because that was always the mind game aspect of CCGs. I would always like. That's why I play Miracle Rogue, because I remember back in the day what I would do is like I play Argent Squire turn 1, coin, Cold Blood. All right, deal with it.
Yeah,
this dude's got 6 attack or something at that point.
Well, yeah, I think you plus.
Yeah, he's got shield, 4. Right?
Yeah, with the bubble, and so it was just like
it was a 5/1. Yeah, with the shield.
Yeah, because the Cold Blood has got the combo like plus 3
combo
or plus
4. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was just like just go all in, and I just remember like in the early days of the Legend grind, right? It was like people weren't used to it. Everybody was playing like mid range, tempo, like all that kind of stuff, and just like no, dude, like you're gonna die in a few turns if you don't deal with this, and then they would like overextend anyways. So I quite enjoyed the mental gymnastics that comes with universes for sure, and it's a taxing game. It can be a taxing game if you're really grinding the matches and stuff. Yeah,
I've always said I've always said for people that enjoy like kind of what you're saying, talking about like the interactions, like I want to have like as much interaction with my opponent on their turn as possible. Like if you like that aspect of like Magic or games like that, then UVS is like that times a million, right? Like there's so many different things, there's so many different windows for you to respond and do things and to have those interactions. And that's why like I do think it is like kind of an underrepresented game. A lot of people don't know about it, or they only kind of know about it. They're like, oh, it was that Street Fighter card game, right? Like what could that possibly offer for me? But then you get people actually to sit down and play it, and they're like, oh wow, there's so much here. There's so many different levels of play. There's the different block zones. Talking about like baiting out, like trying to get your opponent, like, do you want to block this one attack? Like, do you only have like 2 cards? And like there's so much interactiveness and like just complexity of strategy and stuff in the game. And I think people, as we get more people in with My Hero, I think more people are starting to see that, and it's like sticking around.
Exactly. I borrowed this somebody from I forgot who, but somebody told me this, and I've been repeating it to the team, and basically saying, the IP is what brings them into the room, right? Mm-hmm. The game, the product, and the community is what keeps them there, right?
Yes.
People could be coming in and playing and saying, I don't like this, that's not my thing. They're gonna go, and there are other card games or other things out there with bigger IPs and bigger things. But I think the one thing that we do really well is, again, the game itself is an amazing game engine. But more than that, it's the people around this table and the people around the universe's table, so to speak. I feel like we have such a welcoming community that encourages you to get better at the game. While not putting you down, which I think a lot of other like competitive communities, you have a lot of that. Look, I played Dota and League of Legends growing up. That's
you know about it then. Yeah. And to your point, like that's definitely, so as someone who's literally played like since launch, and I've been through 3 owners, and the game's died for years at a time.
Right.
And, like I show my age every now and then whenever we're even talking in our own Discord, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is kind of like a reprint of this card that came out like 12 years ago. And they're like, what? And like that literally happened just the other day. And that to say, I completely agree that like, like what got me in was Street Fighter. Like I saw Street Fighter. I love Udon artwork. They had some of that on the character cards. I'm a Ken Masters fan when I play Street Fighter. So I saw a Ken Masters promo on eBay, and I was like, I'm buying this and I'm learning this game, didn't know anything about it. Then found out Penny Arcade was in it. Got that. All that to say, what actually kept me around was the mechanics at first, and then I started traveling, and then I got to know the UFS community and more, I guess, accurately, my UFS family, because that's really what it feels like, to your point of it's a competitive environment, and everybody wants to do well, and everybody's going to give you their all. But at the end of the game, you're not going to have any bad blood. Like people aren't going to still be, holding a grudge or this, that, and another. Like the majority of the community, there are some people like that, but the majority of the community is much more of the opinion like, hey, that was a great game, man. I love what you're doing with this deck. This is really cool. I can't wait until we play again. Can we get some more reps? Like, why'd you make this decision? Like, they want to talk to you about it, and they want to grow with you. And I think that's really key to keeping people there, like you're saying, and encouraging people to come out and actually play in these events, because you guys have put on some really awesome events this year.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. Well, the team, works really hard behind the scenes, and we have a very vocal community, obviously, and everybody wants more, and for us to fix all the issues, and the team works really, really hard, long hours and weekends, and obviously we have a lot of passion for it, and it's a lot to ask of the team sometimes to pull through sometimes, and everybody, I'll tell you this, everybody on the Jasco team like wants this game to succeed, right? Like we want this community to succeed, and they do it out of so much passion and heart. It's really, really it's awesome to see on our side, and sometimes it's not as celebrated almost, obviously when we have things that don't go so well, but behind the scenes, obviously the teams themselves, and it's great to hear that you guys have enjoyed the events, and I think a lot of people have, so yeah, a round of applause to the team. They've done a fantastic job.
Absolutely. Yeah, shout out to everybody on the team.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you kind of alluded to something that I'm curious about. So the game's almost been out for a year, right? Like came out last October, I believe, towards the end of October. So looking back on this year, like clearly the community gives you lots of feedback, good, bad, or indifferent sometimes. But I was just curious from your perspective, if there is one thing that you kind of go back and change from this past year, what would be that one thing, good or bad, like something that you guys did really well that you think you can improve upon, or maybe it's something that you're like, yeah, we didn't quite hit the mark here, we want to improve upon this, or just something in general like that if you could alter, looking back on it now a year into it.
Yeah, I mean, look, hindsight's 2020. I mean, there are always cards you would change, like
fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at the ones we banned,
Yeah,
there
right.
are definitely things like that we weren't that you can always get better at, but you can't dwell on those things. I think if there's one thing, oh man, there's so much.
right.
You learn from your mistakes, right? And one of the big things that really harmed us this year, and not to say that I think we're in a great spot, and we're set 3's coming out, everybody's excited, and there's big announcements and all of that coming up, but it took a long time in between sets, right? I think that's that was the biggest thing that slowed us down. We had a lot of momentum, from set 1, and all the hype that came into it, and then obviously with COVID and the ports and the logistics, you guys, it's been really, really frustrating for us because, as you guys know, we print our cards in Japan, right? And we have to put them on boats. We have to get the boats out into the port here in LA, or down in LA, but here in California. And then we have to get that from LA all the way to the warehouse in Minnesota. And that process seems okay, but for the piece of cardboard going to the LGS afterwards, it's actually quite a bit of a nightmare logistically, especially in this day and age where all of the supply chain globally has been a catastrophe. And so if we were to have to do again, we would have looked into domestic manufacturing quite a bit earlier, so that we could have gone set 2 out, a little bit earlier. We would have gone set 3 out, and maybe even set 4, etc. So that's probably the thing that I think, if there was one thing to pick on, that would be the thing that we would make it so that it was, frankly, it became a meme, when the release dates, etc. And not that we didn't want to release the product, but
sure.
We didn't have the information.
I feel confident that you guys want to release it more than anybody else, right?
That's how you get that money, right?
Right, and you worked that hard on it. You want people to see it.
Exactly.
So you mentioned changing to domestic production sooner. So is it fair to conclude that now there's more production done domestically for it? Remedying that, or is that just something you're actually exploring at this point versus before where you couldn't explore?
Something we're exploring for the future. Nothing has been, set in stone, so don't quote me on this.
No worries. I was just curious because of how you referenced it. I was like, oh wait, maybe something's changed, and I know because set 3 is just around the corner now. I didn't know if maybe some things are correlated there.
Well, I'll tell you what, our goal for 2023, and I'll say publicly here, is for us to have 3 to 4 sets a year, right?
Okay,
I think,
cool.
As a CCG, that now wants to play, let's say, with the big leagues, right? Like we want Versus to be a well-respected CCG where we're already in the top 10. You guys saw the ranking.
Yeah.
We're going up, boys. We're going up.
I was about to say, nowhere to go but up at this point, right?
Exactly. And so, look, we passed Dragon Ball, but look, let's say that's like just stepping over. Right. Bad, but there are many steps to go, and for us to compete, with the big, the big games out there, we have to hit the release cadence as well. They're I don't even know how many products Magic comes out with nowadays, but
it's at least 4 sets plus whatever online stuff they're doing plus Commander. It's crazy.
Yeah, they changed the release schedule at one point too, right? Like they did the core set, and then I think it was 3 other sets, but then at one time it was just 4 sets. So who knows, right?
We're nowhere near doing anything crazy like that, but we want people to. I think that's another thing that the production schedule has really hampered us with is. A lot of what we are trying to build right now with Universes for the new players coming in, right? The new players, the new LGSs, the new, even the distributors, the partners that we're having, they want to know that we're going to be here for the long run. They want to know that Universes isn't just, this one time thing, with My Hero, but it's hey, we have a 15-year history. You guys can look of players playing, but also, hey, we have a bright future, and as part of that is consistently delivering on the sets, right, and on the product releases, so that people can expect, hey, I can invest in this product, I can invest in this community as an LGS, as a store owner. I can, they're making their bread, right? They're making their living off of our products, and if we have a sporadic release schedule, or hey, this year we might not release something, or we might get one or two, it's not enough for people to really dive in and make that commitment to us, and so we're making a commitment back to them that count on it. We're going to make 3 to 4 sets a year, and that's the roadmap, and we'll have more information about that, but that's the roadmap for that we want to put out there into the public, that people can say, okay, we'll hold you to that, Jasco.
Okay,
nice.
Well, that has me excited
great to hear. Yeah,
and terrified because my bank account's not ready for it. But yes, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, but just like knowing that commitment's there, because I played a lot of like the FFG LCGs. And I was like, oh, sweet, the Warhammer Conquest. That was so much fun. And FFG killed it. I was like, well, that sucks. And then they're like, oh, are you sad we killed Conquest? Don't worry, because we just acquired L5R. I was like, oh, cool. I love that game, too. I bought into that. And then they killed it. And I was like, oh, that sucks. So when you have new players coming in to like My Hero, and like, I'm interested in this game, but I'm not sure like what kind of like commitment I want to put into it. It is great to say like, oh, hey, like if you're just coming in because of My Hero, that's cool. Don't worry about like the commitment to the game, because there's over a decade of commitment to the game, right? You can just point to that and be like, this game's not going anywhere. It's we're moving forward in a different direction than it was previously with IPs, maybe. At least in the short term, but it's nice to be able to have that commitment and be able to show to the new players that are coming in, and to the game stores too.
Exactly, and that's huge. I mean, the local game stores are the bedrock of the community, right? And for them, a lot of them are they have they've had a difficult time of it, with COVID and stores being shut, having to change some of the business model sometimes, and they want to. They've also benefited, right, from the boom in card games in general. So some of them are doing quite well as well. But in general, it's a tough business. Their local game stores closing and opening all the time, right? And for them to be able to trust us is a big responsibility that we need to take on, that to make sure that the product is coming in, that they're able to make ends meet, just as we are, and we all are. And one thing you said, John, on the IPs. Not gonna say anything.
I was gonna say I was. Yeah, I figured I like we would have to ask this at some point, right?
So like, I'm preempting it.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll say this. Get your notebooks out. I'm just kidding.
For our audio listeners, he's holding up a roadmap, and you can see these.
Exactly. No, look. I'm not making any big announcements here, so take down.
Right.
But what I'll say is that what we've done, myself and Paul, part of our background, right, is we, again, as I said here, I used to work for Activision Blizzard, and if you know about Activision Blizzard, they're a big company, right? They plan their stuff out, and they have strategy around everything that they do. Doesn't mean that they're always right. They've made a lot of mistakes, but we learn from them. And I think part of what we bring is we do have a long-term vision for how this game meaning universes, continues to develop over the years. And so obviously over the course of the history of universes, there's been many IPs and many different ways of playing. We are kind of currently, I'll call it in a unique moment in the history of universes, where there's been a bit of a reset button, and it doesn't mean that this is the only format that will always be here for the future. But I think the just like we're saying, hey, rest assured we're going to do 3 or 4 sets a year. Rest assured we have a long-term plan for what the IP strategy is going to be for Jasco games and universes specifically. And that includes more IPs than My Hero, and cool. That's all that I will say today.
Sure. Well, hey, that should be enough for Discord, right? For anyone who's here, because because you hear it all the time, people asking about like what's happened to Standard and all these sort of things. Because you guys did have a lot of really big IPs even before MHA, but in different genres, right? Like in fighting games, other things like that. People do love those things. So knowing that you guys have a vision and you have a plan, hopefully that'll quell some concerns. I'm sure it's not going to subside everybody. You know, like it's not going to satisfy them. Like I didn't get a date. I didn't hear when I'm getting my standard back. But knowing that there's vision beyond just MHA as a format is great to hear.
One more word for all of My Hero fans out there, by the way, is that My Hero Academia is not going anywhere, right? Season 6 of the show is literally coming out, in October 1st, and so we're fully committed to continuing the journey with My Hero Academia universes as a game engine, as a history, as a future roadmap. Had multiple IPs in it, and will continue to have multiple IPs in it.
Very cool. Very cool.
That's awesome, because I sold all my standard cards, so I need MHA.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I have any standard cards left in either. But on the topic of specifically the My Hero card game, who's your favorite character in the game?
Well, so my favorite, it's got to be Deku. So I'm a Izuku Midoriya fan. From day one. It's tough. He is obviously the main character, but not that many people like him. As in put them at the top of the rankings. And so I'm he tries really hard. Sometimes he's misunderstood. He's a little bit of a bookworm, and so why not? Like I have some affinity for our boy Deku, and so shout out to Tamara Cardwell. We played some games at Gen Con, and he really helped me tweak some of my Izuku Midoriya cards there. He's probably spent the most time in a lab out of anybody.
On Deku 1? Yeah.
Especially for Deku 1.
Deku 1, exactly.
See, Tam and I have a gentleman's agreement to throw down Deku 1 versus Deku 2. But he was saying that since some of the changes happened, he wasn't sure how he felt about Deku 1 anymore. And I was like, hey, man, I'm a Deku 2 fan. I like Deku 2. But to your point, I like that character a lot as well, like in the anime as well. And he's not my favorite character, but I do like him a lot.
What are your favorite characters?
I'm totally just an All Might and Bakugo fanboy. And I like all three characters, and I like them all for very distinct reasons. Like I like what you were describing as far as Deku's concerned, because he wins because he's not the strongest. He wins because he's the smartest, right? He's put in the effort, he's put in the time. So like that resonates with me because I'm not the strongest and I'm not always even the smartest. But sometimes you win because you put in the time and you're committed to something, right? But then I love how Bakugo is just enough of a jerk to be likable, like he has this story of, he starts off at the top and he does nothing but fail the rest of the way through the story. And Midoriya starts at the bottom and he continues to rise the rest of the story. And then I like All Might being a teacher and the sacrifices and things like that he makes, and kind of that I have to, protect and pass down this knowledge to the next generation kind of thing. So I like all three of those a lot. It's hard for me to pick my favorite one. John's probably got a way cooler character, I'm sure.
Well, Ryan just sent me a message and he said to be sure to let you know that Hawks is his favorite character, and to make Hawks the best character in the game ever, as Ryan just told me, to make sure he's the best ever.
Completely unbiased design.
I love Mirio a lot. As you can see, I got my little Lemillion here. He's really awesome. I love it. He's so hilarious. Like he's so funny. But also I love Fat Gum. Fat Gum is amazing. He's not in the show a whole lot, but he's in the Yakuza arc a lot. I love some Fat Gum. Fat Gum and Mirio are probably my favorites. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah. Well, I won't say anything about the future, but I think you guys are going to be happy.
Yes, good.
Nice.
I don't have enough All Might yet. I need more.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So as far as like I know you said a big thing as far as just trying to keep up with community is just actually communication. And I know you guys have been active in the Discord. Do you guys have any plans for like how to keep open lanes of communication? Is it through like going on with like stuff like us with the content creators, or is it like almost like a weekly like newsletter kind of thing? Or what ideas or thoughts do you guys have about like how to keep things open with the community and those lines of communication?
Yeah, look, it's a great question. It's something we actually talk about internally quite a bit. It's interesting because we have obviously our individual selves on Discord, at our events, doing things like this, that puts the word out there about what's happening and all of that. And but more than that, I think we do want to do more in terms of more structured and maybe even more scheduled kind of events where there's opportunities to ask questions, get those answered, make sure that we have more community input, perhaps even on things of known in the game and in the company, perhaps even in the future. And so there's been a lot of discussion around it, and part of this also is, what we're trying to do with the company is, Jasco Games for a long time was, a small, kind of very, very scrappy, very, very dedicated, very, very passionate group of people. And, those folks kind of did everything, right? Like everything from marketing to production to design to art creation, all the above. What we're trying to do, in essence, for us to grow as a business, is to kind of bring in experts, right? And experts in each relative to field. And so, obviously on staff, we have Aspira, George Moniz, who is kind of our content marketing manager. And, we have other folks who have responsibility, right, to be the person to, in this case, right, talk to the community sometimes. And so as a dedicated spokesperson, there's more that we can do with the people that we have in place. The reality is we are hiring. If you go on, I think we have it on the Discord somewhere. The job board. There's more and more, roles and more to do. And so, anyways, long-winded way to say we want to do a lot more. We want to be open and transparent. I think this is what makes this fun for us. Honestly, it's being able to interact with the community, say hi, and be able to tease you guys a little bit. What's coming out?
Dangle it out there a little bit.
Yeah. No, but we want to do more, and we want to. We would love the reputation of Jasco Games to be, hey, these are the people who will talk to the community day in, day out, and are available to chat and are very responsive in hearing ideas out, suggestions out, and also sometimes to have tough conversations with folks because the joke, right, is that we're a bunch of card game players, and card games are what taught us how to have manners, sometimes, and taught us how to interact with people, because you have to actually sit across from somebody and play a card game and have a conversation. And sometimes things happen in the community, and we have to address them, and things happen at Jasco that we have to address as well. And so part of it is being open and having those difficult conversations when those conversations are right. I'm not saying that's always the case. But certainly when things happen and things go wrong, we want to have those conversations, and the ones that are about what's next and what's exciting, et cetera, that everybody can rally behind as well.
Awesome. We appreciate that. And I was down in Orlando, and like Matt said, Paul was there, and he was talking to people, taking pictures. He's very open, and I've heard from at Gen Con, obviously you were there, and just very open and welcoming to people, and taking time to talk to pretty much anybody that wanted to. So we appreciate you guys doing that.
Yeah, of course. Again, we got a kick out of it. So it beats working on the day job a lot more. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing you're talking about, a monthly type of thing. They used to do a state of the game, and this is just me again from previously, and I'm sure you've already been made aware of it. But that was kind of for a long time the default. This is how you got updates, and it was a forum post, and it'd date how far back it was on the internet, right? They're actively using forums to disseminate information, and then it was here's our watch list, and that way people can know oh, these cards seem a little too good, maybe we should check those out or whatever. But is there thoughts of that being a potential recurring idea, hey, once a month we're gonna do, even if it's not a written thing, you're saying, maybe it's hey, we're gonna have a live chat once a month, and it's gonna basically be our state of the game. Come in, ask us any question, but we have our here's our talking points that we want to make sure we cover, and then we'll open it up to any questions you might have. Is that something you guys have thought about?
Yeah, it's a fantastic idea. I think that those types of forum, kind of streaming with questions, etc., fantastic. We haven't done it in the rigorous, structured way. I think we've kind of popped in here and there into a chat, a Discord channel here and there, and do it at a convention. But it's something that we do need to sit down and map it out, frankly, internally, to make sure that we do that and have a plan, right? I'll tell you this: as the community has grown, right, not everybody's in the same room anymore, right? You have folks that are on Discord or on Facebook. And then outside of that, you have folks that are just going to the LGS for their information. And so when we think about it, we do think about the whole picture of okay, how do we make sure that when we have a communication that needs to go out, how do we make sure that it hits the whole shebang in terms of all the LGSs and all of the all the new players, all the old players, etc. And but for everybody that's super engaged, I do agree there is a need for something where we're a bit more we can dive a little bit deeper, right, and answer some of those deeper questions, and it's not everybody that's gonna want to know
right
the whole behind the scenes of all of it, but honestly, outside of the stuff that we can't talk about, we'll talk about all the things that we can't talk about.
Right.
Can't talk about.
Very nice.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think something like that'd be really cool. But to your point, I think it's also knowing your audience, right? Like, and knowing your reach. And even that's something that we, as a channel, continue to kind of try to figure out as well. And we have a much smaller reach and audience than you guys do. So I do not envy that task of trying to figure out how to effectively communicate that. So I'm glad you guys are working on that.
Definitely.
Yeah, of course.
I'm trying to think. Matt, do you have any final thoughts or questions? Or I think I've asked everything I wanted to ask.
Oh, well, all right. So right now, what decks do you got sleeved up? Clearly you got a Midoriya. We know you got the Midoriya.
Right. I have a Deku one. Well, so here's the thing. I'm here in San Francisco, and I've given away a bunch of decks. So
okay.
Yeah, to people I've been trying to, my friends I'm roping in. So
right.
I have a Giro, or I have a Giro that's also a Gran Torino.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So it's a little spicy there, and then I have a I haven't redone it because it was a Mina one, so it's also another kind of chaos deck where I'm still playing like not Frog Lashing. Which one is it? No, I think I have some ban cards in there, so I have to.
I'm say you playing with ban cards? Is that what you're telling us?
yeah. No, so I'm not touching that one yet. So those are the I have, but in
perks of the job, I get to still play the ban cards, guys. Deal with
it. Who's gonna tell you no? I mean,
yeah. In the last few weeks, I had All My Three. Gave that one to one of my friends, and then I had Nomu, Shigaraki. So I had a bunch, but
that's an expensive list.
yeah. Well, I put a lot of commons in those decks, so that was the.
Oh, okay.
Look, commons and uncommons are what win you games. That's the majority of your deck. So, the only other thing that I thought of that I would want to share, and you kind of spoke to it earlier, but it's something that was passed to me early on when I started teaching, is that if you're not failing, you're not trying. And I asked that question of, if you're looking back in hindsight, and to your point, it's always 2020. What would you change? Well, that's because, to your point, we learn from our failures, right? We make mistakes so we can learn from them. If we aren't learning from them, then we're not actually growing. So to hear your response and to hear that you acknowledge that as well, to me, provided a ton of comfort, because what it tells me is that you guys are continuing to not just grow in numbers, but also to grow in your approach and your perspective on the game. And that's really comforting to hear, right? Because if you were just like, nope, last year was perfect and we're doing all the things perfectly and nothing's going to get better, guys, just deal with it. Then, while I think last year was really good, I objectively do. And I played this game a long time. I think it was a good year. But to your point, there's always improvements and there's always things to learn from. So to hear someone in the upper leadership have that perspective makes me feel very good as a consumer.
Really appreciate that feedback, because I think that's actually something that I'll speak for myself and Paul in this sentence, that part of the reason why we're here today, I think, in doing what we're doing, was because we adapted, and sometimes the adaptation is hard, because you have to look yourself in the mirror and say, what are the things I'm doing wrong? What are the things that this company's doing wrong? What are the things are going wrong beside you? And being able to take feedback, be able to ingest that, and this is opening up a little bit. There's a poem by David White. I'm going not a card game space anymore, but
that's okay. I was an English major. Bring it on.
There you go.
You're talking John's language now.
Yeah, David White on vulnerability. And maybe you guys can put it up on the screen, or I don't know, do something with it. But
Ryan, get on that.
Exactly, it's a fantastic one where basically it says something about when you open your heart to the basically possibility that you're wrong, right, and possibility that you did a mistake and all of that. That's living, right? Because if you don't, you're missing out on living, basically, and that and you haven't really challenged yourself, you haven't really gone through it. I probably am butchering the actual meaning of this poem, by the way, but
it sounds perfect to me.
Yeah, it sounds perfect. It sounds perfect. And you can also tie it back into card games, right? Because if your deck's performing badly, sometimes you gotta look at the deck and you gotta pull it up on UVS Ultra. And you gotta look like, look, what am I doing wrong? What card do I keep putting in here that's going wrong? You gotta have that self-reflection.
Why do I have no high blocks?
Players, right? The card game players are like, oh, it was always luck. There's no way I would have won, but it was just my bad checks. And the card game player is like, okay, what are all the things I should have done better? This turn and this turn and this turn. And I think we all know over the long run which card game players end up kind of winning more tournaments. Let's put it that way. Right. So yes. So that thank you for saying that, because that's actually something that's really close to my own personal heart. In terms of like just being a human being and
right.
Yeah, exactly. Like even outside of all of this, what do you stand for, right? And you have to have something, I think. So I think that's one for sure. Yeah.
No, I agree.
Thank you for that.
You guys are doing great. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I would love to, as part of this, be able to sprinkle in a little bit of poetry.
Right? Come to Universes Academy. It's all sorts of education.
Exactly. We gotta class it up every now and then, right? We can, bring out the poetry. We'll start our Universes Academy poetry circle. Next
time we'll all wear berets and not the directly in CCG.
We'll get
a beret here,
right. Depends on what kind of Monday it was, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, if you don't, do you have any other than your imparting your philosophies and your poems on us? Do you have any parting words for the community before we go?
October 14th. Show up to your pre-releases. I think it's October 14th.
It is.
October 22nd, street date. I think hopefully I got those right. Set 3 coming out. Really exciting set. We're really excited. I think you guys are as well. It's leading into season 3 of season 3 of OP started already, but all the way into nationals and worlds. HLC. We're not allowed to say worlds. We have to say HLC.
Okay. That's right. Right. Yeah. It's the Hero League.
Yeah, the Hero League Championship, and I'm really excited for the end of the year. It's going to be a really great cap off for what's been an awesome year of card game, awesome year of Universes. And 2023 even bigger things to come. So we're really excited about all of that. But set 3, let us know if you want to get involved. By the way, in the community, I think maybe that's a shout out that, like, if you have an idea, if you have if you're just wondering, hey, like what can I do to help? Come onto the Discord. I'm sure we can always use people to, because this is how. And this is also something I tell the team all the time, is that this is a people business. Honestly, it's a card game business, a cardboard business, and brick and mortar business. It's a game. It's a people business. It's a business where we get together, we hang out, we socialize, we have fun, and we make friends. And anyways, so I could get on another poetry rant about this, but right. Yeah, show up to your pre-release event, show up to your set 3, support your local game stores, and I hope you guys have fun with set 3. It'll be a good one.
Well, I can't personally wait for it, and I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to come and talk with us and share all this with us. This has been awesome. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Definitely.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much.
And appreciate you guys again for all the things that you do for the community, and this kind of long form format. I think I told you guys both individually before, but I personally love to put my headphones in, do whatever, and listen to you guys speak and about the game, and I'm sure a lot of people do out there as well. And so congrats on building this up, and I know that this is just the beginning for you guys, and I'm excited to see the growth of the channel as well.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it. Yeah. And then guys, with that being said, if you don't follow or like or subscribe, check us out on Facebook or on YouTube or all those other sort of things, click the buttons below that I'm sure Ryan's going to put into it in post-production.
That's awesome.
Yes. As always, listen to Matt, do the algorithm things. Thank you, Lujan, for coming by. Everybody have a great week.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye now. Thank you, guys.
Bye.